Hey food bloggers, check out our new SEO Supercut, a bonus 15-minute episode capturing highlights from SEO episodes that we have recorded recently. Go to eblogtalk.com/SEO Supercut to get access today. Food bloggers, hi, how are you today? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Eat Blog Talk podcast. This is the place for food bloggers to get information and inspiration to accelerate your blog's growth and ultimately help you to achieve your freedom, whether that's financial, personal, or professional. I'm Megan Porta. I have been a food blogger for 13 years, so I understand how isolating food blogging can be. I'm on a mission to motivate, inspire, and most importantly, let each and every food blogger, including you, know that you are heard and supported. With everything going on in the world of food blogging right now, are you focusing more on social media or are you focusing more on your blog, or maybe you're doing an equal amount of both? I had James Wythe from Healthy Living James join me in this episode to talk about his journey stepping back from social media creation to focus more on his website just for longevity reasons. He has such an inspiring story and such a unique perspective on this, especially in this year of 2024 when so many people are focusing on social media. It's honestly really refreshing to hear his story. It gives us a little bit of permission to step back and just figure out what is stirring up passion inside of us. What are we actually enjoying? Do we feel like we have to be creating for someone else, for another platform, or are we enjoying what we're doing? He has a story to share about how he got really burned out on social media and how that led him to focus more on his website, which he's really happy with. I hope you find inspiration in this episode like I did. It is episode number 594, sponsored by RankIQ. Eat Blog Talk is thrilled to unveil the Eat Blog Talk Accountability Group, an exclusive community made for food bloggers who crave accountability, focus, and connection. We understand that not everyone is ready to dive into the Mini Minds group or the Masterminds program. That is why we've crafted this special offering for bloggers like you who want that extra push toward their aspirations but aren't yet able to make the financial or time commitment. Here's what the Eat Blog Talk Accountability Group has in store for you for this low introductory price of $34 a month. This ongoing membership has its own private Slack channel. You will gain access to a dedicated channel facilitated by the community manager at Eat Blog Talk, Taryn Soley, for questions, insights, and collaboration. You will get weekly accountability check-ins so you can stay focused and motivated with those weekly check-ins in Slack to track and achieve your goals competently. You will have access to productivity focus sessions. Join these optional live Zoom sessions twice a week to boost your productivity by working alongside your peers and tapping into that collective energy. And you will get monthly group Zoom calls, replacing the former Clubhouse chats. Join these calls to connect, discuss current topics, share experiences, and celebrate achievements. Those calls will be hosted by me, Megan Porta, and I can't wait to see some of you there. If this sounds intriguing, head over to eatblogtalk.com/focus to sign up today. eatblogtalk.com/focus. After a sudden illness caused James to be housebound for 4 years, he taught himself to cook with a chair in the kitchen. James started his blog to share his journey of recovery and recipes in 2016. Since then, James has built a social following of over 1 million and published a cookbook. The blog currently has 300,000 monthly page views, which increased to 7 to 8x in the last year. Hello, James. How are you doing today? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm good. Thanks, Megan, for having me on. Big fan of the podcast. I listen to a lot of the episodes, so it's nice to be on.
Oh, thanks for listening. So I love having listeners on as guests. So great to have you here. We're going to talk about the topic of stepping back from social media content creation to focus on your website, which is a really interesting topic because we are tending to talk about the opposite of that lately, I think. So yeah, this will be a really good conversation. But before we get into that, do you have a fun fact to share with us, James?
Yeah, so before I started food blogging, I was actually a professional poker player for about 6 or 7 years. So I've had some fun careers so far.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Our youngest son, He's 14. He's an amazing chess player, but he also loves kind of that strategy involved in poker. So my husband, I mean, I am a terrible poker player, but my husband is okay, and he's been trying to teach him. So we actually play like family poker here once in a while. So
That's
it's
cool.
hard. It is so hard.
It's a surprisingly technical game. Like, I think everyone just sort of sees it as another sort of gambling game, but there's a lot. It's very deep. Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot to it. I spent probably 6, 7 years studying it, and it's very much like chess in a way.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
it's thinking ahead. You've got to be very good with numbers, and there's a lot of strategy to it. And it's just a lot. It's a really interesting game. The deeper you get into it, the more sort of complicated it gets. So
Yeah.
it's really fun.
Yeah. It's like the actual card game itself is fairly simple and straightforward, but when it comes to
Very,
like,
yeah.
okay, what order are you in? And then like, what could other people have in their hand? And all of that is just too much. It taxes my brain. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
oh,
So the actual card game itself is very easy and quick to learn. It's everything else that comes along with it that makes it very complex. And there's so many different scenarios that turn up that you sort of don't expect. Or yeah, it's a fascinating game.
it is fascinating. And I'm always fascinated by people who are really good at it. So love learning that about you. You should come over and join us for family poker night one time.
I'm actually coming over to, so even though I was a professional for a while, I'm actually coming over to Vegas for the
Oh,
Tastemaker conference coming up
nice.
next
Yes.
in January, and it'll be funny because it'll be the first time I've been to Vegas,
Oh,
even though
awesome.
like I used to be a professional poker player, but now I'm actually going to be there for a food blog conference instead.
Oh, well, you'll have to sit
So
down at a table and play a few rounds of poker.
I might do,
Yeah.
yeah. I have a few games while I'm out there.
Yes, definitely. Well, I love knowing that about you. I guess to start our chat, James, would you mind telling us a little bit about your very beautiful blog?
Thank you. So I started it, Healthy Living James, about end of 2016. I started the website, social media, all at the same time, and I actually started it way back because I wanted to share recipes with family and friends, because I went through a long sort of recovery stage of illness. I was bedbound for 2 years and housebound for 4 years. So I actually started the website after that because friends and family were asking me for recipes, because I started to teach myself how to cook in the kitchen. I'd have a chair to sit down on. So I wanted an easy way of sharing recipes rather than texting it to people. So I actually set up the website and then social media so that I could just post a new recipe rather than having to tell everyone separately. And then I just started getting random people follow me, which was interesting. I just really enjoyed like helping other people and hearing people's feedback, and I just kept going. And the website and everything's evolved a lot since then, but that's how sort of it started.
Okay. I love your story just about how you were kind of doing it for family to share. And then you're like, wait, what are all these random people showing up for? That's great, because I think a lot of
Yeah,
people start with the idea that everyone's going to start flooding in. So you kind of started with a different mindset a little bit.
I didn't expect it at all. No, it was actually I've always been quite a I guess a shy slash private person.
Mm.
So for me, sort of opening up and like letting people in was a bit weird, but I sort of got used to that over time.
Yeah. So when you started your blog, you started social media right away, correct?
Correct. Yeah, all Facebook, Instagram,
Yeah.
TikTok obviously wasn't around then, but Twitter, everything that was around, I started at the same time.
And then how much time did you invest in social media right off the bat? Were you invested? Were you just kind of using it as a sideline project?
Sideline at the
Yeah.
start. So I'd created the recipes to put on the website and then just sort of used it as a way of sharing the new content. And then over time, I sort of started to spend more and more time on social media. I mean, we're talking like way before stories were even a thing, which doesn't seem possible, right? Like that seems like so long ago. I remember when the first stories came out on Instagram, and it was really weird.
Yeah.
Like I would spend an hour trying to do a 15-second video because I just hadn't been on camera at all.
Mm,
And probably a lot of people can relate to that. It's not that easy to be on camera at the start. And then I started spending a lot more time on socials. And then when COVID came around, what's that, probably 4 or so years ago, I really stepped it up on social media and took sort of advantage of the situation, I guess, and sort of doubled down on everything and spent a lot of time there. That took away my time from the website, which now I can't say I regret, but if I could go back, I probably would do things a bit differently, but that's the way it was at the time.
Yeah, and you gained over 1 million followers, correct? During that time?
Yeah, so it's I think it's 1.1 million
Wow.
or so now.
Okay, that's a lot, and that's more than most food bloggers have or will ever have. That's so much. So you definitely spent time, you invested energy in growing that account. Did you have a strategy?
Not really. Like I was probably posting when this is when Reels first came about. I was posting 4 or 5, maybe 6 a week at the start with no real sort of strategy to it. It felt like it was I just loved doing it. So I just kept going. Obviously there was nothing else to do, was there? We were sort of stuck at home, and I just enjoyed doing it, and I built momentum and just cracked on with it, really. And then I sort of got a book deal off the back of growing socials quite a lot. And then I sort of felt like I needed to keep going to help promote the book and keep growing my socials. But that sort of took its toll in the end, I guess.
Yeah. So you got a book deal. That's great. And you feel like that came because of your large following on Instagram.
Yeah, I don't think it would have come without those as a backup. I know the market's becoming a lot more saturated now with cookbook deals, and it feels like sort of everyone that's in the food blog space is starting to bring out cookbooks. 4 or 3, 4 years ago, it's still quite a complicated, very difficult thing to do because it was so competitive with TV chefs and things, where I feel like the influencer side has started to take over publishing a bit. But back then it was still quite a tough thing to get. And so I was really excited about doing that. It was something that I'd assume a lot of listeners can relate to as like a dream to do.
Absolutely.
And it was an amazing journey, a very difficult one. It's a lot more complicated and tiring, and yeah, there's a lot more to it than people think, but there's still probably the highlight of what I've done so far.
Well, that's great. So it was a good experience for you overall.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything else that came from your large following? Like, did you get a lot of sponsored work, brand work, things like that?
That was my main focus then, was branded work that was coming through Instagram. So Instagram and Facebook are like my two biggest platforms. Most of the work was coming through Instagram. And again, back then, we're talking sort of 3-4 years ago, there wasn't as many people doing it. So the branded jobs were more sort of frequent. And then over the last few years, with the whole sort of social media space getting quite saturated, and especially within food, it's become tougher for me, especially.
Okay, even with a large following, you can see that it's tougher.
It doesn't feel like it. So I've got just under 300,000 on Instagram, and I feel like even that doesn't 300,000, say 3 years ago, felt like quite a big number, maybe 3-4 years ago. Now it feels like there's so many people that are sort of around that or more, or up to 1 million now that I know of. But it doesn't, I've spoken to quite a few of them, and it doesn't really equate to more jobs necessarily. A lot comes down to your location. Brands are very aware of that. I think just the whole space has evolved a lot.
Yes.
Like, brands are more aware of what they want, whereas I feel like 3-4 years ago it was a lot more crazy space than it is now.
Yeah.
It feels a lot more refined now.
Right. Yeah, things are definitely evolving. You can feel that. So was there a point where you just felt like that social media burnout was getting you? Because I feel like even if we don't have a large following, most of us feel that at some point.
I would say I started to feel it after my cookbook came out, which was March 2022. So what's that? That's just over 2 years ago. So I started to feel bits of it there with the promo for that. And I felt like it wasn't so much about me anymore. It was like kind of like not having to prove myself, but there was another someone else to please, I guess, was the thing. Like I had to please the publishers and agents and things like that. So I felt like I lost a tiny bit of love around that stage. I guess it felt like quite a lot of pressure. And a lot of people would feel that around their first book, I think, because you also don't want it to do badly because you want to do another one and all of those things. So I felt like there was quite a lot of pressure around that. And then probably more so about a year ago, I started to really think about, do I want to carry on? Like it got to a point where I wasn't sure I really wanted it anymore.
And you're speaking of like social media in general or Instagram or?
Yeah, well, actually all of it.
Okay.
All of it. I just was thinking, do I want to do all of this anymore? And then I sort of broke things down and I've realized that a lot of that was coming from social media. I felt spent a lot of time on there growing all of that. Yeah, I just felt like I didn't necessarily want it anymore, which was quite a sad feeling because I'd spent so much time growing everything and I've always really enjoyed it. And so I just had to sort of figure out what it was that was making me feel that way with it. And I think a lot of it was the pressure around social media, having to sort of post 3-4 times a week and coming out with content that you hoped went viral. And there was just a lot of pressure around that and trying to grow. And I got to a point where I didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, that's hard when you spend so much energy, so much time, so much love building a business. And then you have that feeling and you're like, wait, why am I feeling this way? I used to love this. It's really hard. It's like a reckoning. It's so confusing too, right?
It was. And then I sort of thought, do I dislike everything about it? And the answer to that was no. Like I still really enjoyed creating recipes. I still really enjoyed hearing people's feedback. I really enjoyed helping other people. So it wasn't everything that I disliked. It was just the sort of pressure and constant comparison, I guess, with other people and seeing other people come up from nothing and grow really quickly. And yeah, it was just I know you're not supposed to compare with other people, but you always do. Like it's hard not to.
It is hard. It's so hard.
So I sort of realized that, okay, what is it I still love about all of this? And then it brought me back to, I was like, why don't I just go back to the way that I used to do things, like create recipes for my website and use social media as a way of sharing those. But I'm not going to create exclusive recipes for both because they're completely different recipes. And when I was trying to explain it to family, they didn't really get it at the start. But I was saying to them, like, trying to create a recipe that goes viral on social media is so different to what someone's searching for on Google or what someone's looking with the intent to make. They're just complete leagues apart. I mean, it feels like two different jobs. They are so far apart that I was creating one recipe that I thought, okay, well, this could be quite popular and quite weird and different and fun. And then I'm trying to create something that's actually quite basic and simple that people are searching for. And they were so far apart that I just was kind of finding it hard to balance all of that. So I thought I'd just go back to doing what I originally did, which was post the recipes on my blog and then share them to the social media for people to go back to.
Did that help your burnout?
Yeah, I've sort of stepped back a lot from social in the last 3 to 6 months. Now I just sort of post the recipes that I create on the website onto socials. Not all of them. I sort of just do it when I fancy doing it. I still turn up quite a lot on stories and share. We had a daughter a couple of years ago, so I share a lot about bits of our family journey and behind the scenes of stuff, but I don't sort of create perfect sort of videos that I used to do anymore. And I've enjoyed it a lot more doing that way.
I love that. And how has your audience received that on socials? Have they loved your change?
Yeah, it's been a lot of people. When I actually did a post about how I was feeling and my overall sort of health and the impact of social media, everyone sort of understood and totally understood the situation and supported it. Obviously, the account's not growing as much as it used to. That was expected. But I sort of just don't care anymore with that. Like,
Yeah.
I think it just, I don't know if it's getting older or having a child and things like that, where just the numbers don't really mean that much to me anymore. Maybe it's from stepping outside of it, because when you're in that moment of trying to create content, trying to grow, you really care about those numbers. And actually now I'm like, it's just not that important in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've had a perspective change, and it sounds like your audience has been very receptive of that. That's great. I mean, of course they would be, right? If they love you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's been great. It's still difficult to get people off of platforms though. Like,
Hmm.
it's not, to get people off of Instagram onto a website is not an easy task. Like, it's so, and I always knew that I wouldn't get tons of traffic from socials onto the website. So I always knew that, trying to rank highly on in Google and things like that were gonna be very beneficial to me, and have the socials as a backup to that,
Yeah.
to help boost them. But yeah, it's been interesting, and I know a lot of people are going the other way, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts
Hmm.
of people people struggling with Google and going back to social media, whereas I've gone the complete opposite way around.
Hello, food bloggers. Let's be real. 2024 has been a tough year. The HCU, Google update, unexpected traffic drops, revenue loss. It's been a roller coaster and not the fun kind. I know how challenging it can be to stay motivated when you're dealing with these setbacks. That is why I'm so excited to tell you about our 2025 mastermind groups designed specifically to help you overcome these hurdles and come out stronger. Imagine gaining clarity and focus despite the chaos. Our structured programs offer supportive guidance, expert sessions, and customized learning opportunities, ensuring that you accomplish more in 12 months than you would in 5 years on your own. We've also listened to your concerns and decreased our pricing to make the mastermind accessible to more bloggers facing tough times. In these groups, you'll learn how to navigate tools like GSC, GA4, and Pinterest. You will build solid strategies for all the platforms, and you will dive deep into SEO and keyword research to reclaim and boost your traffic. Feel supported and uplifted by a community of like-minded food bloggers. Experience accelerated growth, increased revenue, and a newfound confidence. You will gain clarity about your priorities and your next steps. Listen to what Monica from the Hidden Veggies has to say. Quote, signing up for the eBlog Talk Mastermind was a great investment in both my business and in myself. I only wish that I had done it sooner. End quote. If 2024 left you feeling lost, let's turn things around in 2025. Join one of our mastermind groups and get the support and guidance you need. Go to eblogtalk.com/mastermind to learn more and to secure your spot today. Let's make 2025 your best year yet. Yeah, it's kind of like you're swimming upstream, because it does seem like most people are going the other way, which is fine. Like, their stories are really inspiring too, and it's working for them. And, it's like where you're at, what your perspective is, where your passions lie. It sounds like you're really enjoying the recipe development and focusing on the blog more now, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I feel like it actually brings back to those poker sort of roots, where it's quite a lot of strategy to it. And yeah, the deeper you sort of get, the more it just keeps going. Like, and I really enjoy that element of it,
That's so cool.
which I didn't really get from social media. Like, I don't think I sort of got that
Fulfillment. Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear people do the other way around now, but it's a long game. Like, you've got to enjoy the moment that you're in. That's what I've learned. I think that if you're happy with doing what you're doing at the moment, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Because it is such a long game that you're going to keep changing the way you do things, and think the what you enjoy will change, and you just got to go with that. Because if you're not enjoying any of it, then you're just not going to make it, are you? You're not going to keep going.
No, and there's no point. There's no point moving forward if you're not enjoying yourself, in my opinion. So what do you think about the whole future of creating recipes for the blog? Because Google has been pretty frustrating this year, and a lot of bloggers, that's why they've turned away from creating recipes and doing more of social media. So what are your thoughts on recipe development and publishing on the blog?
I think everything goes round in cycles and circles. I feel like when I think about social media, I've obviously been heavily involved with it for years, and reels and videos and recipe videos have been, I mean, I've never seen so many recipe videos in all my life, like as there is right now. I know I follow a lot of food people, and obviously Instagram and the algorithms are going to target me for more recipe videos, but it's just endless. Like I could just scroll recipe videos, I reckon, for days, and it wouldn't end. Whereas years ago, that wasn't a thing. Like there wasn't that many recipe videos being created. So I just feel like it's going to go back more to longer form content. It feels that way with newsletters and people like that are starting to really do well from newsletters over the last year or so. Whereas I feel like that wasn't really a thing 3 or 4 years ago. So I feel like everything goes round in cycles, and I feel like longer form content is going to be where it's at again. But I still think that's a bit early to say. I think that's maybe in a few years' time, but that's where I sort of feel that it's going to go, because there's just a lot of burnout when it comes to video creation. And if you're I'm going to say a normal person at home that wants to find recipes, I feel like you're just going to get so overwhelmed with video content that you're just going to get bored of it.
There's so much of it. I mean, it's very, like you said, it's so saturated.
Oh, it's crazy. It's so saturated. And the last 2 years, I'd say it's accelerated at like unreal pace. It's mad. And there's a lot of younger people coming into the space that have got a lot of creativity, a lot of energy, and some of them do amazing stuff. Like they're doing great content, growing really well. But I just didn't really see the longevity there with the social media side and brand collaborations, and I just didn't see that long-term view with it. Yeah. So it's interesting.
But with publishing content on your blog, I think what you're trying to say is like that is going to be there forever, or not forever, but like that is the long game, right? Is that kind of what your message is? Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing was that social media, you don't really own the content. I guess like you obviously own it, but there's nothing to say that I couldn't do something wrong on Instagram get blocked or banned for doing something that I wouldn't be able to control potentially, and that could literally end me overnight. Like that could literally put a stop to my whole career.
That's scary.
And that just didn't seem right. Yeah, it didn't seem right to have. And I know obviously Google could literally end my career overnight as well, but it feels less likely to happen than potentially social media doing something. So I don't know. I just felt like there wasn't that much security in it. And also you still have to get the brand jobs to come in. Like it doesn't matter if you've got 5 million followers on Instagram, 10 million. If you're not getting brand jobs, you're not making money. Like you can't survive that way. So I think a little bit more stability with ad income and things like that was just a bit more appealing to me going forward as well.
Yeah. There's a member in my mastermind group who I don't remember how this happened, but her Facebook page, her business page was removed, or like, no, it still exists, but she's not allowed to manage it anymore. And Facebook basically told her that like, you're done for, like, she has no idea why. She cannot get on. She cannot manage her page. She had this loyal, big following, and it's done. And she's tried, and there's nothing she can do about it. And it's so hard to watch because she's publishing a cookbook and she would really love to promote it there, but it's such a helpless feeling that she has no control over.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
That's scary, isn't it? And the thing is with the social media platforms, like once they've made a decision, that's it. Like you're not coming back from that. Like it's very unlikely that they're going to be able to turn. You can't even get in touch with people to help you.
Right.
Like there's no that's one of the biggest problems.
Yeah. It's very
And
frustrating
there's
and
there's
helpless.
not a lot you can do about that, and that's horrific.
And like you said, Google can take away traffic too, but it's with your blog, it's something that you have control over. You still have a newsletter, you have email subscribers, you have Pinterest, you have other ways of sharing your blog content. It just feels a lot more like, yeah, just in control and not something that somebody can just take away.
Yeah, and the updates that obviously
Yeah.
happened a while back have caused a lot of problems. And I know we hear a lot of the negative sides of it. My traffic's improved since then. Whether that was because, whether that's because I wasn't that focused on creating great content 4 years ago, whereas other people were. And I feel like it seemed to be a lot of the people that were very interested in SEO and creating good content 4 years ago got hit pretty hard with that. And the newer people, or the people that weren't sort of doing much of it, haven't been as impacted and are going upwards. I don't really know what's happened, but for me I've obviously spent a lot of time updating and improving the site, and I've literally just launched a brand new site actually on about 4 days ago.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Did new branding
Oh.
because I'd literally just done it as a DIY job for like the last 6-7 years. So starting to understand myself as a bit more of a brand and trying to stand out from the crowd now is an important thing. So I spent a lot of time updating content and then changed the site over from Feast to Cultivate, and I had all new branding work done. Has been a nice change. So we'll see how that does over the next few months as well.
Yeah.
But it literally just launched four or so days ago.
Oh my gosh, so it is very fresh. So you
Very,
mentioned
yeah.
that you have been doing a lot of republishing of old content. How has that been going? Has that been fruitful for you?
Yeah, so it did. So I didn't actually have a lot of content on the site. I had about 220 or 230 recipes, which is actually quite a small amount compared to a lot of people. So going back through a lot of those felt insanely overwhelming at the time. I don't even want to think back to it because it's so overwhelming when you look at all of the content. I actually had an audit about 5 years ago, and I was so overwhelmed with all of it that I just was like, I'm just going to focus on social media. It's easier. It just felt an easier route at the time. And that's probably one of the reasons why I did focus on socials, because it just felt easier to just create a video instead. And then I had another audit probably 18 months ago, and that one really sort of kicked me into gear, and I went off the back of that and updated probably 80% of the content, no index some, deleted some that just couldn't find sort of relevant keywords for or anything that I could rank for. And that has probably 7 or 8 times my traffic since
Ooh,
then, organic traffic.
wow, that's
In
amazing.
probably just around about a year. So yeah, it has improved a lot.
Wow, so huge payoff, especially during this time when things are so volatile and up and down. That is so great. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, it's been hearing obviously a lot of people are struggling, and I'm sort of just hiding behind the curtain.
No, I was talking to an SEO expert on the podcast earlier this year, and he was saying how he so appreciates when people who are doing well, despite what's going on with everyone else, talk about it because it gives people hope. And then it also encourages other people who are in the same boat to talk about it too, because we hear all the bad stuff. Like you said, we hear all the negative stories. Like, my
Yeah.
traffic is gone. I've lost everything. And we don't hear the good stories because people are so afraid to share it. So I
Yeah, it's true.
appreciate so deeply when people share, like, actually, my site's doing really well right now, because it gives us hope that Google isn't, they're not completely ditching bloggers. They're not, I don't know. I think it's very refreshing. So
Yeah, there does seem to still be room for improving. Like, I think there always needs to be something that shakes something up to make someone improve. Like, otherwise people just continue and don't
Yeah,
really
that's so true.
move forward. Like, there always does need to be something that makes you
Yeah.
improve. So yeah, and a lot of people will give up as well. A lot of people
Yes.
will give up, and that's normal as well. Like, people just want to, I was like that with social media. Luckily, I've sort of changed my focus and gone more to the website, but people just move on. Like, they have different things they want to achieve and focus on other things, which is totally normal as well.
Yeah. Right. So what is your strategy going forward? Are you just focusing heavily on new content? Are you still going through and republishing? What's your strategy?
So I'm still going back through older stuff. Like, actually, a lot of stuff I republished probably a year ago. I'm starting to look at that again seasonally. So coming into sort of autumn, Christmas time, winter, I'm starting to look at some of that stuff again, to see if I can move those up, and especially ones that are anywhere between sort of ranking 5 to 15. I sort of try to see if there's some room for improvement there. And even a lot of the ones I did update a year ago, I feel like either don't sort of match the way that the template, or sort of the way the structure that I follows anymore, or just the way things are written, or changing the photos or things like that. So there are some stuff that I'm still going back to that I've only just felt like I've updated a year ago. And then obviously creating a lot of new content, because my depth of content isn't that big, like only about 260 or 70 recipes now. To grow more, I feel like it's a lot about numbers game as well. Like, obviously all the new recipes you create aren't gonna suddenly rank or do well. I just feel like it's going to be a lot of, for me, a focus is creating new content to grow the amount of recipes that I have, and obviously grow the traffic. So I do currently post 2 recipes a week, and I'm actually going to up that to 3
Nice.
from September. So
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then updating recipes as well behind the scenes. I don't really have like a set number of those. Like, I sort of just go in and have a look and see what I feel like I can do. But the main goal will be to try and create 3 new recipes a week and try and update a couple a week. So there's sort of every day of the week, business week, there'll be sort of something that's improved or new.
That's awesome. And then last question is just, do you have any encouraging words for people who might be in the boat that you were in, where they just feel burned out by social media and that pressure to, I think you said these words, to please someone else or to do something that's not necessarily from within them? Do you have any encouragement for them?
I think the main thing that worked for me was trying to step back, write down everything that you do, and then write sort of what you don't like and what you do like. And then that really helped me to understand that, okay, well, social media is a problem for me, but I don't hate it. Like, I still am turning up and still creating stories, and I still enjoy interacting with people, but it was the feeling like I have to create content to grow was the big problem for me. And then realizing that, okay, well, I still enjoy the website and stuff like that. So I think stepping back and figuring out which side of it you love, because that's the most important thing for longevity as well. If you don't enjoy something, you're not going to continue doing it.
Yeah.
So that's the most important part, I think.
I am so inspired by this. Thank you so much for sharing your story. You were super candid, and I think a lot of people will appreciate that. It's a unique perspective, I think, in this time that we're in. So yeah, just really appreciate everything you've shared today, James. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Such a pleasure. Do you have either a favorite quote or words of inspiration to leave us with?
I like a quote that I can't remember who it's by, but it's the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, which I think is really exactly sort of how I've gone about everything. Is, although I felt overwhelmed at stages, I try and just do one bit at a time, because over the long term, that's how you're going to improve things and grow.
Yes, I love that so much. So true. We'll put together a show notes page for you, James. If anyone wants to go look at those, you can head to eatblogtalk.com/healthy living James. Tell everyone where they can find you, James.
So all social media. So we've spoken about Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Healthy Living James, and then the website as well as healthylivingjames.co.uk.
Awesome. Everyone go check out James. And thank you again for being here. And thank you so much for listening, food bloggers. I will see you next time. If you enjoyed this topic, you'll also love the episode I recommend in the show notes. Click on the episode description to find the link. Thank you, and I will see you next time.